A lot of people think that silkies are just a cute face and some fluffy feathers, but they're actually a lot more useful than you might think. I'm gonna go through a lot of really cool, fun facts about silkies so you can decide if you want to get one for yourself. I would highly recommend them, but there's some things you need to know and some things you need to watch out for. Let's get into it. The thing that makes a silkie is the fact that it's so fluffy.
He's so fluffy, I'm gonna die!
It's this way because it's missing its barbicels. Barbicels are little hooks on the feathers that hold the feathers together that make them all sleek and smooth. Silkies are missing this feature, and so their feathers fan out just like down feathers, but they're not down feathers, they're just their normal feathers. The downside is they can't really handle cold and wet. Because of their fluffy feathers, mud and water really sticks to them. The water doesn't really shed off like it does on other birds. The other thing about not having barbicels is their feathers don't hold their shape, so they can't really fly.
That wasn't flying, that was falling with style.
The good side of that means they can't fly over your fencing, so you don't really have to have really elaborate fencing to keep them in, and they're not going to run away. Of course, the downside to not being able to fly is they can't get away from predators quite as easily. So you have to make sure that your coop is predator proof from hawks and owls and that sort of thing that might be lurking about. Another interesting fact is they have feathered feet. The advantage, of course, is they don't have the ugly legs. They don't have those scrawny chicken legs that most chickens have. They have sort of a more attractive looking leg. The downside, again, is they can't handle the cold and the wet as easily because the feathers on their legs absorb the water, and then they have a harder time regulating their temperature when their feet are wet. Bonus fact, they actually have 5 toes.
5 fingers, ooh, freak show.
Most chickens only have 4 toes. Silkies happen to have 5. Doesn't really make much of a difference, but it's interesting. Next fun fact, they're a bantam bird. That's just a fancy word for small. Silkies only weigh 2 to 4 pounds, which is like a half or a third the size of other birds. The positive side is they're going to eat less food, and then they're also not going to need as big of an enclosure as some of the other chickens might need. The downside, of course, is that they might get bullied a little bit easier. If you have other bigger chickens, even other bigger hens, that can really be a problem. Or bigger roosters might kind of dominate them. Of course, the solution is to maybe have 2, 3, or a few of them so that they can kind of have their sub-flock within the main flock if they aren't accepted or welcomed into the rest of the flock because they're smaller. So maybe keep 2, 3, 4 of them, and they're going to be a lot happier. This is not widely known, but silkies actually have a genetic mutation called fibromelanosis. And what that means is all of their skin, all of their pigment is black. So their bones, their skin, their meat, it's all black. Their feathers are the only thing that may not be black. On the positive side, they're kind of a novelty food item. You could eat your silkies and there would be black meat, and that would be interesting. But do you really want to eat that cute little bird? I don't. Maybe you do. So silkies are a little bit slower to mature. They start laying eggs at around 9 months. Most good layers start laying at around 5 months, maybe as late as 6 months. But the silkies develop a lot slower. And so it can be upwards of 9, even all the way up to 12 months before they start really laying eggs consistently. Now the positive side of that, of course, is they stay cuter for longer and they're smaller and they're adorable. But if you're looking for egg production, they're really not the way to go. But what comes with slower maturity is they also live longer. They live up to 9 years. Most good egg-laying hens are going to live about 6 years. They can live longer, but generally about 6 years. So you're going to get 3 more years out of a silky hen, which is great if you're keeping it for a pet. It's always hard to lose a pet, so the longer their life, the better, of course. The downside is they stop laying eggs after about 5 years, and really they stop being very productive after only about 3 years. Silkies lay about 120 multicolored eggs per year. So the positive side of that is your countertop's going to look a lot better. The basket full of eggs will have different sizes and colors because of the silky eggs that are added in there. There'll be maybe some whiter colors or some greenish kind of colors, some speckled colors. Sometimes they're brown, but you can get a larger variety of color when you add in different types of chickens like silkies. Of course, the downside is they only lay about a third as many as a really good layer. Some of the really good layers like a Barred Rock or Rhode Island Red, they can lay up to 300 plus eggs per year. Also, the eggs are a lot smaller, which again, if you're looking for variety on your countertop to be interesting to look at, that's great. If you're looking just for production, not so great. Let's talk about their temperament for a minute. They're really mild-tempered. You can pick them up, hold them. They make great pets. The positive side, they're really great with kids. If you have small children, 1, 2, 3 years old, Silkies are great for them. They'll be able to pick them up. They're not going to peck. They're not going to fight with you. They're not going to come after you. They're just really mild-tempered. The negative side of that, of course, is they get bullied really easily. The bigger chickens, we've already talked about this, will bully them. The roosters and that kind of thing. They'll have to fight for their food. So it's a little bit of a harder life if you mix them with bigger chickens. But it's totally possible. They'll survive. They'll be fine. They just get picked on a little bit. What goes along with the mild temperament is they're a little bit quieter. So if you live in a neighborhood, that's great. Your neighbors really aren't going to have to complain about you, because even hens can be quite loud when they're laying eggs. They like to announce that they've laid an egg. It's ridiculous. I can't imagine these hens are surviving in the wild like this. They must be quieter. I'm sure the skunks and raccoons love the alarm that, oh, an egg was just laid, let me go get it. So I'm pretty sure that doesn't happen in the wild. But as far as the chickens that we have bred to lay massive amounts of eggs, they love to announce that they just laid an egg, and it's really loud. Plus, roosters are super loud. But if you live in a small neighborhood with close neighbors, Silkies may be the way to go. Even if they produce less eggs, your neighbors aren't going to complain about the noise. Of course, the downside to that is there's no alarm from the roosters. Having a rooster is great because when there's a predator around, they're going to squawk and scream and yell and make a ton of noise and scare off the predator or alert the other hens to go and find shelter. The Silkies are not that great for being protectors or alarms of predators. Now, here is the best and worst part of a Silkie. They go broody all the time. I'm talking about every few months they're broody. Now, the downside, of course, to that is they stop laying eggs when they go broody. So they're just sitting there for 20-something days at a time unless you break them of it. But they're not going to lay any eggs during that time. And so they're just eating a little bit of food and kind of wasting away. The other frustrating thing about Silkies is they'll actually start creating their own nests sometimes. If they aren't happy with the nesting boxes or they're full, they'll just go into a corner wherever and lay eggs. I've had them do that in the far back corner of my coop, and I've had to rake the eggs out of that corner, and they'll just create their own new nests wherever they feel like it if they aren't really comfortable in the nesting boxes that you provide. Of course, the positive side of them going broody all the time is they make great moms. If you're trying to hatch out your own eggs, Silkies are great because you can just put the eggs underneath them and they'll sit there and they'll take care of the eggs and they'll hatch out the chicks and then they'll take care of the chicks. And so if you want to have a no work, low work kind of way to hatch out chicks, get Silkies. That's actually what this coop is about. This is going to be a Silkie brooder coop because we have 2 Silkies that go broody all the time. And we actually want to start hatching out our own chicks. Our friends and neighbors are always asking us if we have eggs. We never have enough, so we want to hatch out more chicks. We've even had friends ask if we can give them chicks. So we want to be able to do that for people. So we're going to start hatching out our own chicks using the Silkies. My next video is actually going to be how I built this coop and give you all the kind of ins and outs and all the different features of it. It's going to be really cool. So go ahead and subscribe if you want to see what this one's all about.